Last season, I pulled more than 4 pounds of fresh greens out of a single 4x8 raised bed every week for almost 7 straight months, and I barely lifted a finger after planting day. Meanwhile, my neighbor was out there every weekend babying his tomatoes, wrestling with squash bugs, and still running to the grocery store for a bag of salad. The difference wasn't talent or square footage. It was the vegetables we chose to grow in the first place. See, most of us were taught to grow the showy stuff: tomatoes, peppers, sweet corn, crops that demand constant attention and only give you one big payoff at the end of the season. But there's a whole category of vegetables that work completely differently. You plant them once, and they feed you over and over again, week after week, with almost no fuss. Gardeners call them cut and come again crops. And once I figured out how to grow them properly, my grocery bill dropped and my garden chores got cut in half. Today, I'm going to walk you through the 5 laziest, most productive vegetables you can grow at home, exactly how to plant them, and the harvesting rhythm that keeps them producing for months. And stick with me to the end, because I'm going to share a kitchen scrap trick that gives you a 6th lazy crop for absolutely free, starting from something most folks toss right into the trash. Now, before we go any further, I need to come clean with you. I did this wrong for the better part of 15 years. I'd plant a single row of lettuce in spring, let it grow until it looked like the heads at the supermarket, then cut the whole thing down at once. 2 weeks of salad, and then nothing. I'd do the same with spinach, same with kale. Big harvest, empty bed, start over. If that sounds like your garden, you're in good company. That's how most of us were taught. It's how the seed packet instructions read. And it's how commercial farms operate because they need uniform heads to ship. But for a backyard gardener who just wants fresh food on the table, that approach is backwards. It creates more work and less food. Once a friend of mine who grew microgreens for a farmer's market showed me the cut and come again method. I stopped planting gardens and started planting harvests. Here's the principle that changed everything, and it comes straight out of basic plant biology. Certain leafy vegetables grow from what's called the crown, which is the point right at the soil line where all the new leaves emerge. As long as you leave that crown intact and take only the outer mature leaves, the plant just keeps pushing out new ones. Research out of Cornell and several university extension programs confirms that regular light harvesting actually stimulates more leaf production than letting the plant sit undisturbed. In plain English, the plant thinks a deer took a bite, and it responds by growing faster. You're not hurting it. You're signaling it to produce. Once you understand that one idea, every lazy vegetable I'm about to show you makes perfect sense. All right, let's get into the crops themselves. The first lazy vegetable, and honestly the one I'd plant before anything else, is loose leaf lettuce. Not head lettuce, not iceberg. Loose leaf varieties like black-seeded Simpson, red sales, and salad bowl. Here's what you do. Loosen the top 4 inches of soil, rake it smooth, and sprinkle the seeds directly on the surface about 1 inch apart. Press them in with your palm. Don't bury them, because lettuce needs light to germinate. Water gently with a fine spray and keep the surface moist for about 7 to 10 days until you see sprouts. Once the plants reach about 4 inches tall, you start harvesting. And here's the part most people get wrong. You don't cut the whole plant. You go around the outside and snip the 3 or 4 largest outer leaves off each plant, leaving the center crown completely alone. Come back 4 or 5 days later and do it again. One small patch, about 3 feet by 3 feet, will feed 2 people salads all season long. In zones 3 through 7, plant in early spring and again in late summer. In zones 8 and warmer, treat it as a fall, winter, and spring crop, because summer heat will make it bitter. The second lazy vegetable is Swiss chard, and if I could only grow one leafy green for the rest of my life, this would be it. Chard is a biennial, which means it doesn't bolt in summer heat the way lettuce and spinach do. You can plant it once in April or May and harvest from it clear through the first hard frost. I like bright lights for color, or Ford Hook Giant if you want pure production. Sow the seeds half an inch deep, about 6 inches apart, in rows 12 inches apart. Each seed is actually a little cluster that can produce 3 or 4 seedlings, so once they come up, thin them to one plant every 6 inches. Don't skip the thinning. Once the outer stalks are about 10 to 12 inches long, grip them low and twist them sideways off the plant. Don't cut with scissors. Twisting cleanly removes the whole stalk at the base without damaging the crown. Take no more than a third of the leaves at any one harvest, and that plant will push new growth for 6 months straight. The third crop on my lazy list is kale, and specifically the Tuscan varieties like lacinato, which you might know as dinosaur kale. Curly kale works too, but lacinato handles heat better, and the leaves are easier to clean. Plant kale about 18 inches apart, because these plants get bigger than people expect. Give it full sun and soil that's been worked with 2 to 3 inches of finished compost. Kale is a heavy feeder, so that compost matters. Water deeply about once a week, and mulch with 2 inches of straw or shredded leaves to hold moisture in. Now let me pause right here, because I want to tell you about something that ties all of this together. What I'm showing you today is just one slice of a much bigger system I've put together over the years, called the 30-Day Kitchen Scrap Garden Protocol. It's a 171-page guide that walks you through 31 different regrowable crops, including a $10 starter kit guide so you don't overspend on gear you don't need, 0 waste kitchen strategies for turning peels and ends into fresh food, and complete troubleshooting support when things go sideways. If the idea of growing more food with less effort and less waste speaks to you, scan the QR code on your screen or head to the link in the description below. It's $17, and honestly, it pays for itself in about 2 grocery trips. All right, let's keep going. Back to kale. The harvesting rule is the same as chard. Take the outer leaves first, working your way up the stalk, and always leave at least 6 to 8 leaves in the center crown. Kale gets sweeter after a light frost, so in zones 5 through 8, you can still be harvesting fresh kale in December. The fourth lazy vegetable is the one that surprises people the most. Green onions, also called scallions. Not bulb onions, which take a full season and only give you 1 harvest. Green onions you can cut and regrow indefinitely. Plant them from seed about a 1/4 inch deep, a 1/2 inch apart, in a block about 1 foot square. You don't need to thin them. When the tops reach about 8 inches tall, take your scissors and cut them down to about 2 inches above the soil. In about 2 to 3 weeks, they grow right back. You can get 4 or 5 cuttings out of a single planting before you need to re-sow. And in zones 6 and warmer, they'll often overwinter and start producing again in early spring with no replanting at all. The fifth lazy vegetable is arugula, and this one is for folks who like a little peppery bite in their salads. Arugula grows fast, really fast. You can plant seeds and be harvesting in as little as 3 weeks. Scatter the seeds thinly over a prepared bed, press them in, and water lightly. Once the leaves are about 3 inches tall, cut the whole patch down to about 1 inch above the soil with scissors. Water well, and in 10 to 14 days, you'll have another harvest ready. You can get 3 to 4 cuttings from one planting before the plants bolt. In cooler weather, you can get even more. Here's where I need to talk about the patterns I see that keep good gardeners from getting the harvests these plants are capable of producing. The first pattern is waiting too long to harvest. I see folks staring at a beautiful lettuce plant, thinking it needs to look like the grocery store version before they touch it. By then, it's already thinking about bolting. Start harvesting when leaves are young and tender, even if the plant looks small. Early harvesting actually triggers more production. The second pattern is cutting into the crown. Whether it's lettuce, chard, or kale, the center growing point has to stay intact. I did this myself for years, grabbing a whole handful and slicing it off at soil level. Every time, the plant quit on me. Outer leaves only. The third pattern is planting everything at once. If you put all your lettuce seeds in the ground on the same April weekend, You'll have a glut in May and nothing in July. What works better is succession planting. Sow a small patch every 2 to 3 weeks from early spring through fall. You'll always have something ready. The fourth pattern is ignoring the soil. These plants produce leaves non-stop, which means they're pulling nutrients out of the ground constantly. Top dress your beds with a ½ inch of compost every 4 to 6 weeks during the growing season. That alone can double your season-long yield. Now for the bonus I promised you at the beginning. The sixth lazy crop, the one that costs you absolutely nothing, is green onions grown from kitchen scraps. Next time you buy a bunch of green onions at the store, don't throw out the white root ends. Cut them off about 2 inches up from the roots. Stand them root side down in a small glass with just enough water to cover the roots. Set it on a sunny windowsill and change the water every 2 days. Within 3 or 4 days, you'll see new green shoots pushing up from the center. In about 10 to 14 days, you'll have full green onions again, ready to cut and use. Once you get the rhythm going, you can move them from water into a small pot of soil on the windowsill, and they'll keep producing for months. $1 worth of green onions from the store can feed your kitchen all year long. That's kitchen scrap gardening at its simplest, and it's the gateway drug to growing dozens of other vegetables from scraps. If you found this helpful, I want you to know that the full system I use for regrowing food from kitchen scraps, the one that turns a grocery receipt into a working garden, is laid out in the 30-day Kitchen Scrap Garden Protocol. Inside, you'll find the full list of 31 regrowable crops with exact timing and water schedules. The $10 starter kit so you can get going without spending a fortune. The zero-waste kitchen strategies that stretch every bag of produce you bring home, and step-by-step troubleshooting for every common problem. Scan the QR code on screen right now or click the link in the description to grab your copy for $17 at backyardbuddybooks.com. It's the most practical investment you can make in a garden that actually feeds you. So there it is. 5 lazy vegetables, 1 free bonus from your kitchen scraps, and a harvest rhythm that keeps producing while you sit on the porch with a glass of iced tea. Drop a comment and let me know which one you're going to plant first, and if you already grow any of these, share your favorite variety so the rest of us can try it. Thanks for spending time in the garden with me today, and happy growing.